I'm just amazed that Kevin McCarthy is going to basically force his caucus to have an up and down vote on her and put them all on record one way or the other. And the majority's leader job is or a caucus leader's job is to protect its members. And so when people get really angry at Chuck Schumer and they get really angry at Nancy Pelosi because she doesn't do X, Y, Z, most of the time that they don't do the sort of progressive right thing is because they want to protect Joe Manchin, who might be running for re-election in the state that Donald Trump won by 40 points. Or Nancy Pelosi may be trying to protect some rural Democrats that live in that represent Trump districts. So that's her job. And Mitch McConnell is so afraid of Donald Trump, who's holed up down in Florida with really no way to really communicate. He's sort of been deplatformed everywhere. And they're still so afraid of him that they're going to force all of these Republicans to have this tough vote on Marjorie Greene Taylor and whether she should have committees. I mean, somebody who's a raging anti-Semite and a murderous loon. And now they're going to own her. They either vote against the Democratic motion, and basically in 2022, that's going to be the Democratic campaign, right? It's so-and-so congressman from Q, and you're going to point to this vote for evidence, or they're going to vote to strip her of her committee assignment, and then you're going to have like MAGA Q Nation just like descend on them and challenge them in the primary. So they're in a no-win situation, all because Kevin McCarthy is apparently too scared of Trump individually to just strip her of her committees. They did it with Steve King, so I don't know why she is special or different than what they did with Steve King.
What is the fear of someone who's been deplatformed? That's what I don't get. The power that he had was on his platforms. Many of his followers have been deplatformed. What is it that McCarthy and McConnell are afraid of? That's what I'm not getting.
I mean, McConnell has been speaking more forcefully against Trump. Now, will that translate to a vote to convict? That's a big question. And I think that really is going to come down to whether he thinks that those corporate PACs are going to continue to cut off donations to Republicans. Those corporate PACs claim that they will, unless the Republican Party distances itself from Donald Trump and Q. Who knows, right? I mean, that's sort of the game of chicken that McConnell is playing. I think he's just trying to really figure out how legitimate those threats really are. So there's that question. McConnell only cares about the money. There's really nothing else. McCarthy, on the other hand, I mean, he's really scared of Trump. He went down there and showed weakness, right, by having that weird summit with Donald Trump. And yeah, he can't get the word out. He still has his email list. He's still going to have money, but we know that money does not drive political elections in the way that most people think they did. When you look at the runoff in Georgia, right? Like $600 million was spent in 2 months. Nobody's mind was changed, not a single person. Yet you have an organization like the New Georgia Project, that's Stacey Abrams' organization that she founded. They have a budget of $5 million. $5 million a year. They actually registered and turned out people to vote by the hundreds of thousands. That is what moves numbers, is organizing on the ground, not $600 million in ads. Now, do we actually think Trump's going to organize underground? He's not going to do that. So they run a bunch of ads that really don't have an impact. You're going to have primary challengers. They're going to walk around with a Trump endorsement. I mean, Trump doesn't need a Twitter account to endorse Marjorie Greene Taylor and all her little clones that are sure to pop up next year. But is that enough to win a midterm election? I don't know. I would bet that it's going to be a liability, more of a liability than it is going to be a help. And yeah, there's some really deep red districts that are going to maybe fall to Q candidates. I mean, I think that's going to happen regardless. But the battleground is going to remain in the suburbs. And I don't think there's anything worse for the Republican brand than to rally around somebody who claims there are Jewish space lasers creating forest fires in California. And that's just a reality. And we've seen McCarthy try to get her to apologize, to walk some of that stuff back, and she's just doubling down on all of it.
Yeah. She's also said, by the way, that Hillary Clinton scans children and wears their faces. So I just want to tell you that.
Yeah, no, people play really well in the suburbs.
So some of the punditry, because I guess they have nothing else to talk about, and they have to criticize Democrats, saying that Biden needs to be more bipartisan, needs to be very careful about this COVID relief bill. They're going to blow it in the midterms. So we put that on a scale. And like you said, the suburbs, let's put that on a scale. Fighting for COVID relief and making bold decisions like that versus Marjorie Taylor Greene in the suburbs. I don't see.
Yeah. And Mark, we spent 8 years of the Obama campaign really just tearing our hair out over Obama's like desperation for bipartisanship, defined by getting Mitch McConnell to play nice with him. And Mitch McConnell, he played him just by denying him any support, flat out saying, our job is to make him a one-term president, he didn't even pretend. And Obama kept just begging him for that support, that bipartisan, and nobody cares. I mean, the Civil Rights Act passed by one vote. Does anybody go back and go like, it wasn't bipartisan? So does anybody look at their social security check and go like, I'm not going to cash this because it was not a bipartisan vote in Congress when this thing passed, right? People don't give a damn about bipartisanship. They care about results. And one of the ways that Republicans have sort of turn people against government is by breaking it. They break it when they're in power. I mean, that is literally their philosophy. Trump sort of proves, or sort of highlights that, but also by breaking government when Democrats are in power. So then they can say, see, Democrats can't fix, anything for you. So therefore government can't work. And if the idea that government doesn't work solidifies in the electorate, that benefits Republicans. I mean, this is the whole famous Ronald Reagan quote that the scariest words in the American language are, or in the English language, I'm here from the government and I'm here to help. I'm from the government, I'm here to help. So that's what needs to be hit head on. And I gotta say that Biden and everybody in that administration seems to have learned that lesson from the Obama years, and they're not playing. Biden invited those 10 Republicans. They spent 2 hours talking. Those Republicans walked out, and Biden said, "Nope, still doing $1.9 trillion." They are refusing to back down. They are realizing that in the end, what's going to judge this administration and the Democratic Party is, did we deliver measurable improvement in their lives? And there's no doubt that $1.9 trillion in relief in checks to most people, and help for cities and states that are under, crushing debt because of COVID and the resulting economic chaos, all those things. There's no doubt that this is going to be an improvement in people's lives. I wish it was $3 trillion, but hey, almost $2 trillion is pretty freaking good. And we're seeing this not just in COVID relief, but we're seeing this when talking about immigration, when talking about climate change. This administration is thinking we're going to go big because that's what the American people need to see. And when you talk about bipartisan, Biden has made very clear that he's defining bipartisan as in pursuing policies that are popular with the American people, including rank and file Republicans outside of Washington, D.C. And it's true. I mean, there's a Republican pollster that showed, this was one of Trump's pollsters, 75% of Americans agree with a national mask mandate. That is bipartisanship, because it includes Republicans as well. That is bipartisanship. Who gives a damn if Mitch McConnell doesn't agree? He doesn't get to decide, because he's not representing the American people. He's not representing the entirety of the Republican populace out in the States. He's representing the Q, destructive, nihilistic caucus. And so he no longer, having backed up Trump in his attempt to subvert democracy, I don't even think he's not even a credible person when discussing our national politics anymore. None of them are, unless they vote to convict, and unless that they introduce legislation turning back the Trump billionaire tax cuts. They do those two things, I'm going to start taking them a little bit more seriously. But right now, they're a joke.